Hello, everyone. Welcome to Vivid Earth. Anina Malherbe-Lan back. And today I've got Dayna Ruben with me. Dayna's come across my radar. She's done a couple of shows with Honey, and her name has kind of been there in the virtual space. And so I'm so happy to have her on today. She just really goes down the rabbit hole when it comes to certain pertinent questions during our awakening and ascension right now. But she is actually a specialist in helping women from fertility to delivery, giving birth. So we'll touch on that and kind of a few other pertinent subjects that come up. But welcome, Dayna. How are you?
Yes, thank you, Anina. I'm doing wonderful, and it's a pleasure to be on your channel. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, it's great to finally meet you virtually, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, I just have to say, excuse the lighting, the background is all terrible this week, but
Oh,
you know, I'm kind of in the process of moving and moving around. So apologies. Dayna's background is beautiful. I believe somewhere in Arizona.
that's right.
Very nice.
Pacifier Falls. I'm not saying it right, but yeah.
Hmm, okay.
Yeah.
So Dayna, give us a little bit of introduction on you, what you do, but and also how you came to do what you do today, and kind of how long have you been doing it? Were you kind of in on a 3D job, or did you transition, or what is your sort of journey to where you are today in a nutshell?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, I am a late bloomer. I got married at 36, first marriage, and we got pregnant, pretty much had the babies at 38 and 40. So for me, I had that time where I was waiting a long time. Maybe not an infertility wait, which is completely different, but more waiting for the partner to eventually have the family. So I get that that waiting period. But basically, after we got married, we were pregnant in 9 months, and then 9 months after that, the first baby
Oh,
came. And yeah, it was a very spiritual experience for me because the spirit of the baby was connecting with me, and I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know what it was, and I really had to just dig deep in and kind of just feel it and enjoy it. And with regards to that baby, he had come in a QHHT session that I
hmm.
had, quantum healing hypnosis session, which I became certified eventually to be a practitioner of that before we got married. And basically, he came in as my son in Atlantis. I had a lifetime in Atlantis. So that was very special. And I knew that it was him. I couldn't see his face in the hypnosis session, but I could feel the energy. And it's very powerful and um, sassy. And that's
Familiar.
exactly, yes, exactly. And he's very dominant and alpha male. And it's a gorgeous, beautiful thing. That's one of the reasons why he wanted to come in first, probably. And then the second son, he popped in and out right around maybe a year after we had our first son. We got pregnant with number two. But he came in, I felt his energy, I could feel him around me, but he gave me nothing. Like no spirit baby juicy information about the spirit baby aspects. And so I had to do my research. So I found this book, Spirit Babies, and I read it while I was pregnant. And I basically do a lot of the modalities. I've incorporated them into what I'm doing now. So basically, when I found out I was pregnant for the first time, I was completely scared of birth. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would, 10 being like very fearful of birth, I was at a 10. And I didn't know why, because I had these beautiful aspects in my heritage. My ancestors, my mother's mother, had 9 children
Oh,
on the islands of Bahamas and Jamaica. And one set of twins, but the rest of them were singleton births. And then the other, my father's mother had 5 children, all home births, all with midwives. So I had this beautiful lineage and aspect that wasn't too far away from my heritage, where I am right now. My basically where I was from a generational standpoint. So basically I focused on especially my mother's mother who had the 9 children. And I thought about her every day. And I also had a friend that introduced me to hypnobirthing, which is a way to give birth naturally without any medication. You can opt into it if you want to. You can also opt into a C-section if you want to, but it is designed to help you open up like a flower because we are built to give birth. So the hypnosis for birth, basically, it puts you into a hypnotic state from a self hypnosis perspective. It helps you tap into the pituitary gland. And inside the pituitary gland, you create oxytocin, which is the love hormone. And that opens up everything in your body. And that is what you use to give birth, not only naturally, but you get to feel all the feels. And it's completely different from what is experienced nowadays, which we'll talk about after. But basically, I had these gorgeous, wonderful births. They were very short. They were 3 hours of labor from my water breaking to actually giving birth for the first son. And that included a 40-minute drive to the hospital because I opted in for that. And then the second birth was a planned home birth, but he came 6 weeks early. So he was still a home birth, but it happened while I was on my hands and knees by the front door and my husband caught the baby because we have it all on a 911 call. And I posted that on my YouTube channel because it's fantastic. But you can't have the midwife come in at a certain time if you're too early. So that benefits the hospital, but it doesn't benefit the mother or the midwife. So I wouldn't have changed it any other way because it was my birth on my terms. It was very empowering. But basically I had this beautiful aspect of everything happening all at once. And then I was able to enjoy it. And I get to enjoy the births every birthday when our sons turn the next year older. I get to relive the time. Sometimes I wake up at the time because they were early births, like at 6:30 a.m. and 8:30, 8:12 actually a.m. So I right at that time, I'm like, yes, I gave birth, and I get to relive it. So that's my story in a nutshell. And then I created my humanitarian project around my story because I saw the degradation and the debauchery of what's happening now in birth.
It's been going on for a long time. Quick question before we move on to that. So when you give birth through hypnosis, is it pain-free?
So some women have experienced an orgasmic birth. Mine was not orgasmic, but it was very manageable and it was very calm. There's a part of the brain that deals with suffering. And it's an actual part of the brain that can be identified and mapped on the brain. So we work with that part of the brain that deals with the suffering. And when you hear suffering, you think, oh, I don't want to deal with that. Give me an epidural, give me the drugs. But it's not suffering if you know how to ride the wave of the contraction. So that we teach you how to ride that wave. We give you tools to deal with all of the sensations that are coming. When we teach birth, a part of the birth feels like you're taking your mouth and you're opening it like this, but it's happening on the other side of your body. So that can feel kind of overwhelming, but it was designed to expand. So the body parts, they are really tiny, like a tiny little chocolate donut, and they expand all the way to the size of a watermelon, or 10 inches, 10 centimeters. Or more to bring the baby through. So the body's designed to, and the uterus is even like the size of a pear, but it is designed to expand to the size of a watermelon and then contract over time. So the body's built for all of these things. And then when the actual sensations are rolling through, if you have the oxytocin, which is only produced when you're in a calm, beautiful state of mind where you know exactly what you're doing in birth, it's a completely different sensation. For me, the first time when I gave birth, I felt like I was wielding the power of the universe in my womb. And I wanted that feeling. I wanted to know that feeling because I know I have past lives where I was a breeder for the dark and I produced babies for them. And, we're not going to go all the way down the
fear
holes, but
you had initially.
So I knew that like I it was second nature to me. And then when I had the baby and I was holding the baby in my hands, I'm like, I get to keep this baby.
Wow.
What mother thinks like that? So I knew I had these past lives that I had to, and this was a part of my clearing and cleaning up my genetic line. Yeah, but the hypnobirthing, we give you all of those tools, and we also encode a 5 hour or less birth in the hypnobirthing class. So 80% of the women that do hypnobirthing, and this modality is called bliss-born hypnobirthing, they have labor and delivery that is under 5 hours. So mine was 3 hours and 2 hours, and it's completely manageable. We were not built to give birth for like be in labor for 40 hours, and I've heard over 72 hours of labor. That is completely ridiculous, and that's being created from the synthetic products that they're keep giving you in the hospital to
And
keep
also
you.
almost like the fear installed and the whole trauma around giving birth. So it's like a push and pull. It's not a beautiful experience. It's like you're resisting it, but you have to go through it, and the muscles are contracting, and when you relax and in a blissful state, they relax, right?
Yeah, they absolutely do. And the reason we're contracted so much is because we're encoded with a fearful birth. So when you're 14, 15 years old as a young girl and you watch a movie that has this woman screaming her head off, and I challenge everyone to go and look at those movies when you were growing up, try to find one where they had a calm birth. They really didn't, because that was the MK ultra aspect of this, to create the loosh, to create the traumatic births, to create the tears in the auric field, so that the entities could hook into those and traumatize the baby. This is where SIDS comes from, where the babies pass away, before they're even 2 months old, because a lot of things are happening and it's very traumatic. They're also being squeezed, mind you. But when you contract, the baby is being squeezed so much. But if you really open and expand, it's much better. Also, gravity is helping with birth. So when you have a woman laying flat on her back, which that's the position that they want you to do.
Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. That's right. And we didn't have that in the olden days. Even in the Tartarian days, you can find these chairs that have little holes inside of them. And women were sitting up, giving birth, upright, standing, or squatting. For me, I was on my hands and my knees. This was on the floor. And it was just such a good, powerful position. And everything was right there to be opened up. It happened basically in the 14th century, I believe, when the King Louis the 15th of France. I have to make sure it's that Louis, but one of them. He was a voyeur. He liked to watch the women give birth, so he made them go on their backs. And he wanted to be the first person to see the face, to see if the face resembled him. He ended up having like 22 children. But it's also very advantageous for the doctors because they get to see everything. But in no way, shape, or form is it advantageous for women who need that gravitational pull to push the baby through.
Actually, it's more comfortable for the doctors. It's all about the doctors, and that's why they love to schedule C-sections, because then they can plan their golf games and their holidays, and they can slot you in when it suits them. It's become so inverted, like you said. I mean, I've also, if you study birth certificate fraud and the fact that we're in a maritime system, and the fact that you're birthing like in a ship that's birthing the child. And that whole inverted system, the fact that it's a hospital ward, what else is called ward? Well, prison ward, this word, and it's all purposefully designed like that to kind of enslave and traumatize us from birth. Because, the more you traumatize at that moment, the harder it's going to be for us to kind of reach, for lack of a better word, enlightenment, right? Because you have all this trauma in your body that you don't even know where it comes from. It happened at birth, or it's in your bloodline now, because it's just a continual process. So to reach enlightenment is very difficult for us humans that have been traumatized for generations like this, and they know that. And the whole system, as you said, is designed around that. But I'm sure you have more insight on that in the actual process that's happening in the hospital. I mean, the bright lights, everything that the bed, the blue curtain, the forceps, all these things that are so scary and the opposite of what you want it to be. like, you know, you speak about the orgasm. I'm not going to go into that, but if you study like the, you know, in the Taoist culture, the microcosmic orbit, which basically is alchemizing and transforming sexual energy to create life force. And it almost feels like what's happening here. So you give that baby the ultimate kind of life force at birth. And it's like you fuse together that energy and that flow, and that bond that is created must be beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it, Anina. The birth is sacred. And way back when we were in fifth density, so we were light beings, and humans did devolve into third density. But when we were in fifth density, we birthed and we had conception, fertility, pregnancy, and birth in such a different way. And Lori Ladd goes into this in her book, The Divine Design, but she basically has a chapter dedicated on the how it used to be. And we created an energetic blueprint, and basically the man and the female, they came together and created the conception cradle. So if this was the male, this would be the Kundalini energy in the chakra column, and then this is the female doing the same thing, and they create a chalice or a goblet, and that's really where all of this jargon about the Holy Grail, the cup, the Ace of Cups in tarot, they all connote fertility because you are actually creating that on an energetic level, a goblet. So that's what I go into when I have a spiritual fertility course online and a Welcome Your Baby course, and I go into that. I also talk about it on my YouTube videos. This was something that we don't even hear about anymore. We just hear about it in folklore, like the Holy Grail or the Ace of Cups, or even the Page of Cups. That connotes fertility as well. So it's there, but we're not talking about it enough. So that part is really important. And then when you have the actual birth in a fifth density aspect, as soon as I'm going a little bit too ahead of myself. The female and male couple, when they get together, they actually connect with the soul of the baby. So they have spirit baby communication. And it happens all the time in the fifth density, even with the other star systems. This is how they give birth. This is what we lost on this planet because we devolved. So they're connecting with the spirit baby. Right now, there's more soul contracts, or maybe some more karma that we're probably wrapping up. But before, you would just kind of pick and choose which soul you wanted to come into your family. The whole family would meditate. You would go to the sage, you'd go to the oracles, they would read the charts, they would look at everything and say, yes, this is your baby. And then you would invite that baby into the space, into the energetic blueprint, and you would give birth. Birth was much shorter. It was anywhere from, I believe, from 5 days, not birth, but pregnancy, from 5 days to maybe a couple of weeks, because everything is faster in those densities. Things don't take as long. Time is stretched in the third density. And then you would have a beautiful chamber where the woman was there, and she was only infused with beautiful thoughts, everyone telling her how beautiful she is and how wonderful her baby's going to be. And that is imprinted in the birth. Now, when we give birth now, it's completely different. And then also, not only do you imprint the astrology during birth, but you also imprint the emotions the mother is going through. So any type of emotion that the mother's going through, the baby gets that and it's imprinted on them. And that's why it was such a big agenda to make sure that you're traumatized to the the maximum extent, that Pitocin is added in the hospital. So that actually creates, that has depressants in it. And I did a deep dive with Honey on that in one of our videos a little over a year ago. And we found she tuned into that and saw that they actually add depressants into these, and it creates postpartum depression,
Wow.
the Pitocin. That hit me in the gut when I heard that, because they pumped me up with Pitocin after I had the baby. So it wasn't connecting to the baby, but they give it to you before, and it shuts down the the natural oxytocin that your body creates. So the birth, it was done obviously for a reason.
By design.
And when you look at what's going on the planet and who do the deletes that are not around anymore, but who are they attacking? They were attacking the kids. And to go a little step further than that, if inside of a cell, you have the nucleus, that was the kids. If you go deeper into the nucleolus, which is the center of the cell, that is birth and conception and fertility and the divine feminine, connecting with the divine masculine to create two wings on a bird that work together in unison. So we were suppressed, we have the mother wound, and we're moving out of all of these things, but we need to talk about it. So that's one of the reasons why I bring it to light in my work.
Well, so many people don't know this information. And for some reason, somewhere along the line, we decided that it was a good idea to go to the hospital, inject ourselves with all these chemicals, and go through this very stressful, cold, terrible experience to give birth. It's just, how did they convince the human race that this was better?
Yes, well, the elite women that had a lot of money, they started seeing birth as a chore, where you'd be suffering through it. Having a birth at home, with a midwife, they wanted to spruce it up a little bit. So they brought those women into the hospital. And this is more of a westernized mentality of how this started. They brought the women into the hospital. They sedated them basically. And this is when they started using vacuums and forceps and pulling the baby out. I mean, you could be sedated and in a coma and give birth because your body's doing all the work. Your body is contracting. The cervix is doing its job. Everything is working, but they ended up pushing it into this different modality. So you have a lot of births like that. And then the 5% of births are high risk, but you wouldn't realize it because we have 30% C-section rates in a lot of the westernized civilizations and first world countries. So you saw the transition almost over 100 years ago of women coming to the hospital to have a clinical birth. Then epidurals were introduced. Epidurals used to have cocaine in them.
Wow.
Yeah. And they, Coca-Cola had cocaine in it too, hence the name. But
and I believe Ritalin has cocaine in it too.
Yeah,
and all that stuff is in our water and our seas. Actually, the fish are full of cocaine. I mean, it's just shocking.
It is. That is shocking. It's mind-boggling. And so you have all of these hospital births, and then they created Pitocin, which is the synthetic oxytocin that they pump you with. Now, I'm not saying that all hospitals are bad. I had my first birth in a hospital. I needed to know that everything was kosher, if you will. And I wanted that security blanket. But as I was there, right in the hospital giving birth, everybody was just looking at me. I'm like, I could have stayed at home and done this. So that's why the homework.
You had the confidence.
Yeah, I did. And I knew exactly what was happening with my body. I knew what the transition was supposed to feel like. And that's the empowerment. When you go to your gynecologist or your OB and they just say, show up to the hospital, take a Tylenol, get an epidural, just say yes to everything that they give you. That's where we have created these traumatic births because you don't know what's happening. And when I was in that mode and I was asking questions about the birth, there wasn't that much answers. So I went and got my own answers. And this is what we have to challenge women to do because there is this false sense of security when you go to give birth and you don't know, maybe you just hear that your water's breaking, but you don't know that you're opening up like a flower, that your body is creating all of these beautiful enzymes to help you give birth. And that part is just outstanding. So this was a really important part of my humanitarian project because I knew I had to talk about it. But as I started doing more and more research, Prime Creator and my higher self started pressing on me to focus on fertility. Now, I had these beautiful fertility aspects going on. We were trying to conceive, and it didn't feel right. Every single time I said it, it just did not feel right. And I started tapping into the words trying. When you tell the universe that you want to try something, the universe puts you on a hamster wheel. The universe hears, I want to try over and over again.
Try some more.
Yeah, exactly. So you get stuck trying and then you don't get to the end result. You look at professional basketball players. They don't say they're going to try to win the Super Bowl, or they're just either going to do it or they're not going to do it. A surgeon doesn't go into surgery saying he's going to try to do, or he or she is going to try to do the surgery. So we are told to say trying to conceive. It puts us on the hamster wheel. It creates infertility. How are you supposed to sell IVF treatments to people that are completely astronomically expensive? You mentally switch them onto this trying hamster wheel. And it seems simple, it just seems like words, but the words are spellcast.
Yeah.
So that's where parts of infertility come from. Also, all of the things that we've been seeing around substances that are added to the body that also creates infertility. And the lack of minerals. So that's what I'm seeing as well.
Oh, wow. Just lack of minerals can actually.
Yes. So a big part of the ability to sustain life in your body is to infuse the body with as many minerals as possible. Magnesium is really up there. Burdock root in general has all the 102 minerals that we need for the body. That was, Honey introduced me to that. And I have the tea, I have the supplement, and also magnesium. The more magnesium you have in your body, the less morning sickness that you have. So the reason women have so much morning sickness is because they don't have the magnesium. And when I heard that and figured that out, and actually spoke to Honey about it as well, I still take prenatal vitamins because they're inexpensive and they're just awesome. They have everything you need, but they don't have magnesium. So
I'm surprised.
why? Yeah. Unbelievable. So all these things we're uncovering, and I want to create a safe place for women to land when they start to wake up. They start to realize that they were given something that was considered safe and effective, and they ended up having a miscarriage or a stillbirth right after, maybe within the same week or the same 24, 48, 72 hours. And on a very deep level, that was a soul contract between them and their spirit baby, saying, hey, I'm going to pop in, I'm going to show you that I exist, you're going to get pregnant, and then you're going to lose me for a short time, a couple months, couple years, but I will be back. But this is the catalyst for you to wake up. Because if you decided to take something and it didn't agree with you, that is so devastating. And my heart goes out to every woman that has had that happen to them. But sometimes that's what it takes to wake people up out of that stupor that they're in. And a lot of women have woken up. I have a stillbirth video on my channel, and it's more about the spiritual side of stillbirth, but out of all the videos that I have on my channel, that one gets exponential views, more than like 20 a week. So stillbirths are happening a lot. And I do have some infertility statistics that I wanted to share with you. I'm just going to bring them up. Maternal deaths, they actually rose by 40% during the 2021, the epidemic or pandemic that we all experienced, and an increase in stillbirths were also reported. So by November of 2021, there were 2,620 cases of fetal deaths or stillbirths among women who received inoculations. And that was reported in VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System. Then there's a registered nurse who I've interviewed. Her name is Michelle Spencer. She's from Fresno, California. She's a postpartum registered nurse, and she saw 4 fetal demises, which is also considered a stillbirth, on average in a year, just 1 year, 4. After the rollout of the inoculations, she started to see 1 to 2 per week. That's 240 per year. So they went from 4 a year to 240 a year. Devastating. And then, for the past 30 years, the average fetal deaths per year, 74 in an average hospital or an average state in the US, and that went up to 2,838 that were recorded. You can see the spike on every chart that's out there. Average births in the US alone, before there was 8 million, and now we're at 6 million a year. So that's gone down a lot. Jeez. And, you hear about doctors like Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. James Thorpe, Dr. Christiane Northrup. They talk about this, but it needs more gravitas. More people need to talk about it. It's really important for us to get the word out, and not not to belittle anyone, oh, you did this to yourself. No, 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 no. You decided to wake up a certain way. And now that you're awake, let's put our arms around you. Let's explain what happened. Let's create a soft space for you to land and give you tools to get to that next level so you can welcome that same spirit baby, because they don't want anyone else. They want you. Yeah.
They actually aren't going anywhere. A lot of people, and I can't speak of that because I actually don't have children, but I see mothers that lose babies and it's so devastating for them. And they have to know that that spirit is going to come through at some point. It's just the avatar that couldn't be sustained, right? And I wish more women would understand that, and maybe it will lessen the pain just a little bit,
Yeah, and that's something that I always talk about. A miscarriage and even a stillbirth is just the baby dancing with you, showing you that they're there. It is devastating from a perspective, from a human perspective, but the baby is deciding to come back and to visit you. And just to go on a one-off here, I know we're going to have a lot of technology in the future that we're going to have access to. So women that have had hysterectomies, women that have are later in age, if you will, they are going to be able to procreate again in the future.
With beds.
Yes. Yes. So don't lose hope. I mean, just plant that seed in your head and just watch it grow over time. You don't have to think about it every day, but put that in, journal on it, and experience it in your mind, and you will manifest that in the future. I do see women over 100 years old in the future having babies.
Yeah. And also, Earth is quite tough at the moment in this 3D reality. So maybe some babies are like, hey, I don't think I'm ready to do that. I need some more time. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to come right now. Earth is a difficult one, as much as many souls are like wanting to come here to experience this 3D reality with all of the emotions and all of the intensity. It's also daunting, right? And some go like, I know I said I'd come through, but I'm not ready. And they just need more time,
Yeah,
but
totally.
They will come through at some point. You will never really be separated from your soul family, right?
That's right. Yeah, they eventually will come through, and they right now it's a bottleneck. There's a spirit baby bottleneck to get to planet Earth because there's so much transformation. A couple of reasons for miscarriage and stillbirth is that the soul just wants to say that they were here. They just want to be able to say, hey, I was on the planet, even though if it was 30 minutes or 2 hours.
Wow.
I was there at that time of the Great Awakening. And Dolores Cannon says it the best. Out of all the universes, this is the hardest universe. Out of all of the galaxies, this is the hardest galaxy. Out of all of the star systems, this is the hardest star systems. Out of all the planets, this is the hardest planet. And now that we don't have a dome anymore, but out of all of the places to go, Earth is the hardest. It is the master class. It is, the doctorate program. So you can't just come here and be willy-nilly. We do have a lot of younger souls. We have a lot of NPCs. We have a lot of those types of souls, but they're not big souls. So we do have a grand amount of big souls. And we have a lot of souls that want to come here from other universes. My oldest son, he is 7th density. I found out from Sherry Divban's work, because she goes in, she has a school that she's creating, the Aramis Collective, and I had a consultation with her. And he came here just for this. He was in the Orion Wars a long time ago, and his soul knows a lot about AI technology. He always takes my phone. He figured it out really quickly, and he's here to bring that new, fresh, positive AI aspect onto the planet. And Sherry talks about supernova souls, which when I tap into that, I feel like alpha females that want to come into the planet and really make a difference. So there's so many beautiful souls that want to come here. They don't necessarily want to be a walk-in where they walk into a body that's already established. They do want to be babies born on the planet. So as we move into this new world, they're expecting us to level up. Seek natural ways to give birth. induce and infuse the body with minerals so that it's there for the body to sustain the pregnancy, and then have those beautiful natural births so they can be encoded with a gorgeous birth instead of trauma. When you look at the word louche and you turn it around backwards, it's the word school. So there's a reason for all of these things. They're telling us, they've been telling us for years. So we have to listen now and really push it back in their face and say, no more. We're not doing this. I'm not going to go in the hospital and get an epidural and a Tylenol and think that everything's going to be okay. It's the fear of birth that I see that's the hardest. Everybody wants to get pregnant and then they just want someone else to deal with their birth. So that's really hard. And that's how we've been trained. I also have a free on my YouTube channel. I have a free meditation for women that have had those traumatic births. And it's not necessarily keeping you away from ascension, but it is baggage that you want to clear. And it's something that I created for women that have already had their births. I noticed that as I get out there, my patient population, not patient, my subscribers, they're probably done giving birth, which is fine for now. Things that happen in the future. But I am still looking for the folks that are still looking, that's my niche market, the folks that are looking for birth. And I'm really looking forward to creating my humanitarian project to keep it fresh in the minds of people so that they can really think about this as we move into the new era. So my website has a lot of my services on there. I have the Welcome Your Baby course and the Spiritual Fertility course. The Welcome Your Baby course is much shorter. It's 4 classes, and I incorporate the Akashic records, clearing that just for birth. When you look at the larynx and you look at the cervix, they're shaped the exact same way. Oh, wow. So when you have a vow of silence, a vow of chastity, a vow of celibacy, but mostly the vow of silence, if you've taken that in the past, that could create infertility, because if you're unable to manifest through the throat, you're unable to manifest from the uterus and from the cervix. So clearing that will help with infertility. Any sort of trauma, any sort of abuse in the past this life or a past life, can inhibit birth. A traumatic childbirth in this life, your first birth, will create secondary infertility. So clearing all those things, that's really important. I also incorporate the inner child and the spirit baby. I have them meet and play and talk to each other. And I know there's a big connection with that. So I incorporate that into the class, and also a discovery piece where you do a lot of journaling at the beginning. And then I have the actual spirit baby meet you. And I also have a trust your baby exercise in that class. And the spiritual fertility class, I go into a lot of esoteric knowledge and wisdom with the Kundalini, the chakra system. I talk a lot about the conception cradle. So that class is much longer, and I incorporate everything that I have in the Welcome Your Baby course as well. And of course, the Blissborn Hypnobirthing, I have that as an online class, but I offer phone calls during the class to give you give the couples more information. We also create the partner as an integral part of the birth. A lot of men are like the lion in the den and they're a perfect partner to be in that space. I call them the daddy doula, and that's what I call my husband, because he was like my doula. We basically got trained not to put doulas out of a job, because we need them as well. We need all the help we can get when we're in that birth space, but they set the tone. They talk to the people that need to be talked to. They do the paperwork. They turn on the lights in the room. They help the women. We have a way to connect with a touch, because when you're in hypnosis, you're not supposed to touch the person. But if it's encoded with beautiful essence and support, then the touch is actually going to amplify the experience of the hypnosis and the blissborn hypnosis. So we do all of that in the class. So it's this beautiful aspect. I also have healing exercises. So I take some of the classes and I chop them up into an a la carte experience. And those are healing exercises. And I have a monthly inner circle where right now it's no charge. So I have it pretty much the third Thursday of every month, sorry. And I go through an hour of just connecting with certain topics. The next topic is going to be the inner child. And last month I did womb wisdom. So I have those as something that you have to register for it, and I can send you the link for it. It's no charge right now. So those are all my services. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll leave the link below so people can check it out. Sounds absolutely amazing. Like anyone who's even thinking of having a child should have a look at that for sure.
Thank you so
But interesting, as you said, I find that a lot of my audience are also slightly older. It's almost like they need to reach a certain point in life where they have sought out that wisdom. They are ready to look at life in a much deeper way. When you're young, you just want to experience life, and you almost find fewer souls that actually seek out that information. So I found it very interesting as well that my audience is also older. But I think in the in the months to come, the months and years to come, there's going to be a lot more openness for what you do. And so you're going to be in hot demand because they're going to be seeking out this kind of information. They're going to be open to it. Right now, it's like hard to find people that are open to this kind of information. It makes so much logical sense. I wouldn't want it any other way if it was me. But yet a lot of women, they just can't get past that fear factor. I mean, I have a friend that just gave birth a couple of months ago. I was suggesting to the husband that they do a hypnosis, and it's like, no, she's way too scared. And it was sad. It was kind of, well, what can you do? That's her choice. But I think in the months and years to come, people are going to be a lot more open to that. And interestingly, I believe we have actually a bit of a population collapse going on right now, especially in certain countries like Japan. And I mean, there are many countries actually that we still think we're too many people on Earth, but actually sometimes the opposite seems to be true.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a decline in the birth rate. When you look at the statistics, they show that the only decline was in 2021. In 2022, it started to taper down, but it's still there. But it's not true. We've had a decline for the past maybe 10, 15, maybe up to 20 years. And I got that information from Gene and then Decode because he's definitely a researcher. We did a video together, which I need to send you the link for that, where we went into very deep dives of breeder programs and things like that. But I'll leave that information for that video. But yeah, the population has been in decline, and for a reason. There's a reason why there's an agenda of the depopulation that you can look up, and it's right there on the internet. You can read through what they had planned for us. But when Mr. T says we need a baby boom, and he said that more than once, it's a calm, but he's also saying it for a reason. We do need a baby boom. Not only are there teams and legions of spirit babies trying to come on Earth, they're also coming to be our teachers and our greatest teachers, because it's the kids that will become our teachers in the future, because they're coming in. A lot of children are already babies, actually. They're already raising their head when they come out of when they're freshly newborns, basically. Some are walking at 6 months, which is very unheard of. I walked at 11 months, and my kids walked at like 18 months, which that is pretty late on the spectrum, but it's usually under a year. But 6 months is amazing. They're usually doing tummy time and pulling up their head at that time. So we're going to see these new beautiful souls coming in and giving us, like, just astounding us with what they're capable of doing. And I'm so excited to look for that. But I do agree with you that right now I'm kind of happy that things aren't as crazy and fast and furious with regards to my business right now, because I have to focus on my kids. They're 4 and 6 years old, and I still want to have the time for them. But I had a reading with Scott Yates, who does tarot, intuitive insights and tarot. And I know Honey goes on his channel on Sunday nights. And he pulled the 5 of Cups for me. So it was kind of like a wah. This is how your life is now. But then I had the Wheel of Fortune after that. So I know that there's these amazing things are going to be happening soon. We're going to have a lot more water births. I'm definitely going to promote that dolphin births as well. When women are around dolphins and they give birth with a dolphin in the premises, they are actually communicating with the baby. The baby gets downloads from the dolphin, and they test much higher from an IQ perspective. So it's fascinating, and it is outlawed to swim with a dolphin. I know in the United States it is. So that's for a reason, right? So all of these things are going to be uncovered. We're going to know the truth, and we're going to move forward. And it's going to take some time, but everything takes time. So we're just here to make it happen.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to look forward to. It's super exciting. What a time to be alive. Maybe a lot of these babies are also waiting, after the big shift. Maybe then they'll start coming through, like instinctively, they just want to wait a little bit. It's quite a difficult time now to come into the planet because we're about to shift. It's like a lotus flower that's hitting the thickest part of the mud now before it pushes through. That's how I see Earth right now. We're just like, we've got in that mud, but we're about to break free. We can already see the light at the top.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing to look forward to, but it's going to be a bit bumpy for a couple of months, that's for sure, if not years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we needed to see that dip and to realize that our humanity and the proliferation of our species on the planet was in jeopardy. And people need to actually see that on a bar chart to really let it sink in. Like, this is what happened at 2021, and this is where we're headed, but we need to find out why that happened. And I think that's the most important. People do need statistics, and they need to hear certain things. And unfortunately, that's how we've been trained to listen to those things, and then it starts to sink in. So yes, but we will definitely have that baby boom. I can feel it in my bones.
Yeah,
I'll be a part of it.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess soul contracts, as you said, karma, all of those things are going to become easier to manage. Right now, I feel like we're moving through the eye of the needle. It's time to let go of all the baggage, all the shadows, but it's not always fun. It's hard. And when we're through onto the other side, so to speak, I believe we're not really going to deal with much karma anymore, which is something really to look forward to.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the contracts are expired. They're not really going to be as potent as they used to be. In the past, it was okay. You'll be the mom, I'll be the dad. You'll be the son or the daughter, and our closest friends in the spirit world are our enemies or our arch nemesis here, because they're the ones that they're gonna take on that role to push us and to really give us that resistance. When we look at going into the gym or to work out our body, we look at the Olympics that happened recently with these athletes, whether that's natural or not, they have these superhuman powers. And how do they get that? Through resistance. So even though we look at all of these tragedies in the planet, this was the only way to create the resistance for the soul to get bigger and to exponentially get into that space. I believe that a lot of the 12 and unders that we lost from whatever happened, wherever that happened, I want to be kind of vague, but right down below, yes, that was that soul wanting to push themselves 10 steps ahead. And so even though we want to, demonize it, and it's a travesty, complete travesty that those things happened, that soul was able to push and propel themselves because they had so much polarity and so much contrast to put them into a place where they really understood the love of spirit, the unconditional support and unconditional love of what the divine offers us. So it took me a long time to get to this point, to see that there's benefits from a life of poverty, degradation, and trauma. But that's one of the ways that the prime creator learns how to experience itself. So it's a hard concept to grasp, and everyone will be punished. Justice is coming. Maybe it's already been served. Hopefully we get to hear about it. But at the same time, there was a reason for it. But those days, they really are. They're wrapping up, and I believe karma is going to not really exist in the future, like you said.
Yeah. And also because we fell from fifth to third density on this planet, it was like we came into these human avatars to uplift the entire human collective. That's why we came here. And that's the reason why we had to continue the suffering, because it was so hard to go from this density to that density. Like before, you didn't necessarily maybe need to go through all this suffering to experience enlightenment or whatever you wanted to call it. But for the last couple of thousand years, being stuck and held artificially in a very low frequency, and messing with our DNA and the telomeres and shortening our lifespan and all of that. And because our lives are so short, we had to go through a lot of like difficulty and trauma and polarity. But we're now at the end of it. We're about to kind of lift out. We're already in fourth density. So it's now just moving into fifth density and going into the golden age, and what a beautiful thing to look forward to. So we will not have this level of suffering anymore. And, from the higher perspective, as you said, it is necessary to have had those things happen on Earth. And it's also to complete karmic cycles. As you said, people that were perpetrators in another life, they decided to come in and experience being the victim, and it's difficult to grasp, but we're at the end of it now, and we've got such a beautiful future. And it doesn't mean everything is going to be moonshine and roses, but it's going to be a hell of a lot easier. It's going to be much easier for us to actually rise, because we'll have longer lifespans as well. Like every time we get to a certain age, the bodies just give up, and we kind of lose in a way all that knowledge and wisdom, because then we have the memory loss and we come back in. So what a time to be alive and to be part of this shift. And what you're doing is absolutely amazing work. And there's so much more that we can dive into, but it's probably going to be another hour or two conversation. I would love to dive into the information that you and Gene Decode also uncovered, also with the baby, and then the thing that goes after that, the farms. I won't mention the two words together. But just, the information behind that, and how that was overcome. And I think when people find out the truth, they're going to be so shocked. So that would be a fascinating topic to dive into, but I know that's going to be a lengthy one. So maybe we don't have time for that today, but wow.
We can do a part 2 for sure. I would love to. Absolutely.
And maybe also around soul contracts, diving into that a little bit deeper. And also, things like reincarnation. You think about it, Jesus, or actually that wasn't his real name, right? That was like more a reference to Jesus. Jesus. So we know his real name was Yeshua, but he taught reincarnation. He actually taught that, and there's a way to do reincarnation if you really want to do that, not the way we do it, and those are fascinating topics to go into. And it also leads back to birth and the rebirthing process. And yeah, I'd love to go down that road, but that's a whole new topic. And maybe we should also give giving birth a different name, because it literally came from birthing, because we are in a maritime legal system, which is a layer that they put on top, because all law follows common law, and that is the law of the land. So the maritime law came into play when, a couple of centuries ago, they used to do seafaring quite a lot, and a lot of people went missing on sea. So they became lost at sea, and that's where the whole birth certificate came into play. If that person didn't return, they would be considered lost at sea, and their whole birth bond would be taken, basically. And that's where it basically started. So, the whole word around birthing, and some of the wording and the vocabulary and the spell casting, actually, because that's really what it is. we need to start looking at and changing that narrative and realize that, yes, you are birthing because you're coming through the birth canal, but maybe the way that they've kind of put it together, the whole process needs to be changed as well. So we've got so
Totally.
much still to go through and so much still to uncover and change. But the spell casting is a big one. As you say, we don't even realize we're casting spells on ourselves and on others. And unfortunately, the English language is designed like that as well. It's double speak. It's very confusing. A lot of what we think we mean when we say something is actually meaning the opposite or something completely different. So I think the words and the thoughts are really where people should start thinking really closely about what are the thoughts that they have, what are the words that they use, and those things manifest ultimately. So stop talking about trying to do this and trying to do that, or and use the words that you want to see manifest in your life. What do you think, Dayna?
Absolutely. Yeah. I did use my doing business as name as From Fertility to Delivery because it does rhyme. But when you look at the word delivery, are you really delivering the baby to yourself? You deliver a pizza. You don't deliver a baby. The baby's already in you. And then someone else catches the baby so it doesn't fall, or you have a water birth and you catch the baby, but you're really catching the baby. There is no delivery. So there are so many words like that, and it's not just in my niche of what I'm focused on. It's all over. And the words that are backwards that have been transposed, like louche and school, so many, and we're going to see them, we're going to identify them, and we're not going to use them anymore. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what you said about our humanity's aspirations and where we're supposed to be, Abraham Hicks talks about this a lot. We are a cork, and we're supposed to be floating at the top. And we were pulled down and suppressed, but we always remained as a cork that is supposed to float on the top of the water. So now that release, that stronghold is slowly being released, and we are going to float back again. But we were never anything other than that cork. So we have to start to feel worthy of this. And it's something that I work on a lot because my lineage and my genetic line, there's a lot of unworthiness. There's a lot of poverty. My dad is 100% Indian. So his parents are from New Delhi and Bombay. And India itself has been really suppressed. It's one of that has the biggest population, one of the biggest in the world, that we are told. Maybe it isn't that big, but who knows? When you see the pictures of people in India, there's a lot of people. But there's a lot of poverty too. So I feel like I was supposed to be the weakest link in this chain to break it. And all of us, it's a good thing to be the weakest link because we're here to break the chain.
Yeah.
So
we are
so
here to heal all of that ancestral trauma, really, and to clear it. That's why we came. All of us that are awake and doing different things within this awakening movement, we came to break these chains. We came here to clear the trauma, heal the ancestral trauma. And what an honor, right? What an honor. Absolutely. It's not fun, that's for sure. We've got to feel all the feels, and we signed up for all these patterning. A lot of us signed up also to experience a hell of a lot, because it's like, okay, we got to get the job done. So you're going to do like double the lessons that you would normally do because you're clearing all the ancestral trauma. So is it okay? I'm game, let's do it. But then when you hear, it's like, it's a lot.
It is. It's heavy.
But we're almost on the other side. Thank you so much, Dayna. You're doing absolutely amazing work. We'll leave all the links below. Guys, go and check it out. And Dayna's got a lot of information and knowledge and downloads about other subjects as well. So hopefully we'll dive into that the next time we chat. Absolutely. I look forward to it, Anina. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share my platform with your audience. And I look forward to a part 2 and more, and just a beautiful experience. And for those, I always like to end with this because I'm I may not seem shy or camera shy, but it was a chore getting me on YouTube. It took me like a couple years. I just was blogging. I was, putting quotes on Instagram, but
I just didn't want to get on the camera. And, you know, it's not easy. You know, Anina,
It's
you
daunting.
also make it look
Absolutely
effortless.
daunting.
It's really hard, but it doesn't have to look that way. Our humanitarian projects are right around the corner. So, you know, even if you put quotes online or you just start a blog or it doesn't have to cost anything. It could be free, but just put art that you doodle or journal entries that inspire you, just add them. And if you're looking to, you know, create a shelter for the homeless, but you're waiting on the funds, do something where you're giving people information about homeless statistics. Just think of something, a way to do it for free right now, because I
Yeah.
really think that our humanitarian projects, they are right around the corner. I'm part of Connecting Consciousness, and I'm sure a lot of your audience is as well. So
Yes.
there is a very structured position of creating the humanitarian project, laying it all out, submitting your idea, creating a business plan eventually, working with the funding team, and they need us. They need us to be ready for that. So start the business plan.
Yes.
Um, you know, brainstorm your ideas. I think Anina, you're going to be a
Absolutely.
part of the media. You don't even know. Like you could be interviewing Putin in 2 years. You have no idea. That'd be
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. And we're gonna get there. It feels like we're in the molasses right now, but we're gonna surge up and be that cork that goes above the water. So
Wonderful.
don't give up on your dream. You're not too old. You're not too tech savvy, whatever you want to call that. You have all the potential that you need. You just have to push yourself
Yeah.
to get to that level.
And
So
people
yeah,
can do small
great
things, like you
everything.
say. Just put a quote on Instagram. Make people think. Be that
Mhm.
person who's going to wake somebody up. Just one person. That's a lot. There's always something that we all can do. Can't say, "Well, I don't have the time. I don't have the money, so I'll just sit back and wait." No, just do
Right.
something. It doesn't have to be big. It can be one small thing every day or every week blossoms into a entire garden of roses before you know it.
Right. Yeah. And the way the QFS is going to be created, it's already built like this. It's going to read our energy. So it's already going to know where you're at and what your spirituality is. Now they want to see your potential in the physical. So start now. Like if you have an idea for something, a garden, a community garden, start now. It doesn't have to be the actual garden. You don't have to have any money, just like we talked about. Just start, because you know maybe you'll get more funding if you already started.
Yeah.
That's really what I want to say. Just, and I feel like that is like we need to start lighting fires under people's booties to
Yeah.
get them to start doing this stuff. But we're the future. I mean, the Galactics aren't going to do a lot for us. They're going to do just enough, their part, and we have to do the rest. We are humanity. We are the chosen ones on the earth right now, because we are humans. You know, we're like default chosen ones to get this done. So I always like to end on that. I should be ending on my website and, and all, like selling my product. But you know, I like to end on like, what can we do together? Because you know, I am doing my part. It feels small right now, but I know it's going to get bigger, and
That
I
is
know
so
all of you are
important.
going to have a part to play.
And it's also just about dreaming, having this,
Yeah.
dreaming every day, like I would love to do this and what it's going to look like and how it's going to work, just visualize and imagine. That is the first step anyway. So, and that is the most powerful step as well.
So
Yeah.
powerful.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Well, get your pen and paper out, visualize, get your ideas going. The time is now, literally now.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so much.
Dayna. Lovely
This
chatting
was
to you.
fun.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.